Good evening and welcome to this evening's episode of the Ought to Know Better podcast. This is the Berardi and Coke where we'll be talking about the game against Swansea. I'm Gilly and I'm joined by Smarty. How are you doing, pal?
Hello. Good evening.
Hello.
How are you? How are you?
I'm all right. Do you know what? I'm all right, but I'll be better when I've got into a bit of this.
Ah, yes, of course. What's the drink of choice this evening?
It is Cruz Campo.
Oh, very nice. Yes, very nice.
Of Seville.
People are starting to drink a lot of that at the minute, aren't they? It seems to be getting
you can get it more places now. I think that's all it is. More places stocking it. Right, we will get into an intro and then we'll get into the game.
Hi, this is Don Matteo, and you are listening to the Ought to Know Better podcast. Let's do this.
You look like fucking Brolin, you're a Leeds hating bastard.
Look like some sort of fucking weird floating head. No.
He's a utensil player a bit, innit?
I mean, I feel a bit right, dickhead.
Nothing spectacular, really.
Does that really equate? Nothing spectacular, really.
Out. Sorry.
Get it held.
Bugger off.
I can hear the giggling. Oh, she just wants to be like Daddy, that's all.
She does. She just wants to say that.
Yeah, so nothing spectacular, really. Well, if you look at the start, let's focus on the negatives first and we'll finish on the positives. And there's a lot of positives to take from it. Negatives, looking down the line and waiting for the ball and being offside. Dickhead.
Oh, Dan James.
Yeah, he's the last man.
What?
He's looking down the line. He's got to get that right, surely.
I think that took a bit of a deflection. Apparently, my mic's not turned up enough, so we'll just.
I can turn mine down a little bit so we can equalise it if you need.
Some folk in the comments are saying that I'm not loud, but it's probably because my little cherub has been dicking around with my microphone this evening.
Better.
Is that better?
Yeah.
I'll do one more just for good measure. When I've actually looked back at it, because I kind of did think, I thought that looked like. I mean, I would obviously I sit in the south stand, so I'm a bit like pretty much nigh on parallel to it, so you couldn't see, but I thought that looked like it took a little bit of a nick. And if you actually watch the replays of it, if you can watch the EFL highlights or whatever, it does look like it takes a slight nick off the defender when Jorginho's crossing it in. So I don't actually think, I mean, I haven't seen another angle, so I can't prove my theory, but I don't actually think that it should have been offside. I think he was onside. I think it took a deflection. But you're right. I mean, to say it's probably down to his speed. Maybe he got there a little bit too quick.
But he is so quick. He can give himself a little bit of extra pace. He's waiting for the ball to come to him, so he could have waited for it. But maybe we're being overly harsh, or maybe I'm being overly harsh, but it feels to me like if you're a winger that's coming in, you can watch everything that's going on between ball and you need to be onside.
He did rifle it across, though, didn't he? I mean, he did hit it with some pace, like, so I suppose you had to get there enough, in enough time to be able to get on the back end of it. But we're not professional footballers. I can't move as quick as Dan James, so I can't really comment too much. Yeah, exactly, and he made it. Yeah, exactly, he made it count, or not so much. But
it ended up in goal, even if it were chalked off. And then the other side of things is 20, 30 seconds later, it's in goal at the other end. Now, what a cracking assist from Strike that is! I mean, brilliant.
Hell of a flick.
Cushioned it right into his path. He didn't even have to change pace. Being slightly facetious, it would have been naive.
Smidge.
It would have been naive, and usually Rodon is there. And he would
a few yards behind, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I think if he didn't have such a sexy pirate hairstyle and had more of a baldicus look like yourself, your good self, I think he might have got a little bit more on it. But he kind of like you said, he kind of just tried to. He obviously hadn't looked behind him, but why would he?
Yeah.
They've lumped it forward. He's tried to flick it back onto Melly. He hadn't made a decent enough connection, and their attacker was about 8 stone wet through. Has managed to get on the end of it. And to be fair, it's the first time. It's the first time and he's taking it very, very well. So you have to kind of doff your cap to me because it was a hell of a finish for them. But we were all still going, I mean, did you go last night?
I didn't, mate. No, work
Did you not go?
I'm afraid.
So everyone were like, "What the friggin' hell's going on?" That was surely that were a goal, blah 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 blah. And all of a sudden, ping, they've scored. It's like, what the fucking hell? We were all like, has that just happened? Has it actually just happened? You know, everyone were in shock. It was like, I mean, there were kind of a eerie silence going across the whole stadium. To be fair, we were like, what have we just witnessed? What the hell's just going on? And then, obviously, the chaos commenced with a lovely bit of interchange play and a very well-taken goal by Mr. Pirro, who surprisingly celebrated the way he did, actually. I kind of half expected him to say that he literally left that club 3-4 months ago to downplay his celebrations a little bit, but he didn't. He gave it full pelt, and fair play to him. I'm all for that sort of kind of shithousery.
And...
But...
you know, you look at it and you've got Pirro scoring, you've got James scoring. It's got to hurt, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It has got to hurt.
I think, to be fair, I mean, with the James thing, I mean, obviously Rodon played for Swansea as well before moving to Spurs, but with the Dan James thing, he's been gone for a fair few years now, hasn't he? He's old news now, I suppose, and he's played more games for us than he did for them anyway, by a fair margin, to be honest. I think he only played 33 games for Swansea in 5 years, I think he was there, including a couple of years in youth setup. So I don't know, but I think with Pirro, it's probably a little bit more raw, especially after obviously we nicking him this season. And him running away doing his whole telephone celebration and then kissing Badge just to really rub salt in the wounds. Kissing Badge after 3 months, what a guy! So yeah, I've seen a few people on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, kicking off and calling him a bastard and all that sort of thing. And how dare he? It's a total lack of respect. And I'm just like, this is brilliant. I'm absolutely all for it because I just know if it were if the roles were reversed or whatever, we would be absolutely furious.
Fuming. Absolutely
furious. But, that's what it is. It's what makes it a little bit more enjoyable than, I suppose, of football. But, yeah.
Well, and that's part of the edge, isn't it? And you look at, Norwich took plenty of players off us. Before that, Spurs took players off us. And, being on the other side too, it's a much nicer place to be. But, yeah, Pirro kissing the Badge. James... We're tapping the badge as he celebrated as well.
Dan James loves it, though, doesn't he? I mean, he absolutely loves being at Leeds. He loves being at Leeds. And, you could see he was absolutely heartbroken when he went to Fulham on loan. But it's actually nice. I mean, obviously, that wasn't of his doing. It was Jesse Marsh who sent him away, wasn't it? And, I mean, we can't really comment too much about that. He didn't like to play with wingers, and we had quite a few, so someone had to go. I mean, he brought Nonto in, off the back of Dan James going on loan to Fulham. So it wasn't all too bad, but it's nice to have him back because he's effective, and at the end of the day, he's one of his most effective players, and he's playing really well. His form's right up there, so you can't knock what his contributions are at the minute. Dan James, really
agreed. And let's not talk Marsh up too much for bringing in non-talkers. And I will say I said the same. He said he wasn't ready, he had the impact that we were looking for, didn't he? Did Little Willie? But I really enjoyed the celebrations, and I think if you look at the first half, obviously first 10 minutes, which unfortunately for Scooby he missed. Just popping up this one, Scooby says, "I missed the first 10 minutes, 1-1 and 1 disallowed." Feck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's one of them where sometimes it's just a case of, how do we catch breath here? It's just insane. But if we just touch on maybe it's a negative aspect, but if you just touch on the crowd, as I've said, work commitments, I wasn't able to be there. Obviously, we're on telly, so got to watch it. But in the crowd, did it feel as flat as it maybe came across on TV?
Yeah. I've said this a few times, I think, this season, where I don't think that the atmosphere this year has been good at all. In fact, it were pretty poor last year, but this year, and it's funny because we are playing really, really well. We're right up there. We're in for a shout for automatic promotion. Understandably, last year we were poor. The football were poor. Obviously, that meant the results were really poor. We'd lost Bielsa. We had Marsh at the helm. The 2023 on a whole has just been absolute shambles on it. It's just been a shit show from start to finish. losing Bielsa in February and then getting Marsh and then Gracia and then Allardyce. It's just been an absolute shit show. But yeah, the atmosphere this year has been really, really poor, and it's surprising actually because we are, like I say, we are playing well, and we are getting results. And I can't put my finger on it. I mean, a lot of people have said it's because the football's boring, which is a wonderfully out there take. I mean, people will obviously have their own opinions and things, but I don't think the football's boring in any way, shape or form. In fact, it's the most enthralling, thrilling fucking football I've had. Well, certainly in the last 12 months before. That's for sure. Sorry, 12 months, 9 months, whatever the season is. But yeah, other people have said, oh, it's because it's a Tuesday, it's midweek, but it never used to be this poor when we used to play Tuesdays before, when we've been in the Championship, or Wednesdays, etc., Fridays and stuff in the Premier League. And it's never been this bad, but I cannot put my finger on it. I really, really don't understand. I don't know why.
Because even like under your lights, and maybe I'm remembering Champions League days, which obviously are very, very different, but Elland Road under lights, I've always really liked it. It's been a bit special to me.
Yeah, I think everyone does. I think everyone prefers a night game to an afternoon game. Don't know what it is. Like you say, maybe it's the lights. You know, who knows? It was nice, crisp, cold evening. I mean, I love it. I prefer it much prefer it when it's colder than when it's warm. I know I'm a small minority probably, but I really do. I like wrapping up and going and watching a decent game of football. But yeah, I really just can't put my finger on it. Obviously, you know, maybe some people in the comments can add their opinions to it and potentially why it might be the case, but no one that I've spoken to so far can really highlight or kind of conclude as to why it's so poor. I really don't know.
So there's a lot of, well, I say a lot, maybe I'm overestimating it, but there's been certain comments I've seen on Twitter that's talked about the atmosphere, and it's talked about if it's not with Somerville or Ruter, then it's kind of pedestrian, and we're just passing it around at the back. We've got control of the ball, but we're not really doing anything with it. And it'll take 5 minutes, then we get it into one of them two, and then we look like we come alive. And because it's slow, fast, something's happening, and then slow again, it kind of kills the crowd off. I think as fans, if that's the case, we've got to get over ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Because it's effective. You know, we're third in the league. We had a nightmare start to the season, and we didn't know what the squad were going to look like, who we were going to have playing for us through the season. And Farke's come in, and let's be fair, he's done a miraculous job to get us to where we are now.
Absolutely.
And you look at it, and we'll come on to it in a little while, but you know, Leicester aren't as far ahead as they were, or as they could have been after last night. And you know, we're in touching distance, and you know, we've beaten Swansea. All right, Swansea have struggled so far this season, but in actual fact, the history that we've got against them, you know, we all remember the Pablo bit and that sort of stuff, but we've struggled to break them down in the past. We've struggled to get the points against them. And we beat them 3-1 last night. And we were in control. And I think it's a case of we've just got to liven up a little bit and recognise that it's not going to be champagne football 100% of the time, because that only happens under true genius. And you can't have true genius at the helm of your club 100% of the time. So, you know, it's effective. It's working for us. And you know, get on board and enjoy the ride.
But like you say, you've already alluded to the fact that, you know, the atmosphere goes hand in hand with the football that's on display, but it also goes with the away fans. And I mean, this is no slight on the Swansea fans, because we know obviously it's a hell of a journey. Although I believe that we probably would have sold out, you know, but that's us, you know. Leeds always take more, blah, 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 whatever your fucking narrative is. But yeah, I think, you know, there were, I dare say, a couple of hundred Swansea fans, and they just aren't going to make that much noise. You could barely even hear them when they scored, and then I sit right next to them, you know. So if you're not getting that kind of, you know, interchange of banter with the and obviously the bits of singing that both sets of fans do, you're going to lose your atmosphere like that anyway. I think that obviously in the first 10 minutes it was rather hectic. Well, especially the first 5 minutes when there were 2 goals scored. Well, 3 if you include the one that we were obviously disallowed. But I think for a small period as well in the first half, when it seemed to get a little bit rowdy in certain pockets of the stadium, because we seemed to maybe over 15 minutes get a bit slack and losing concentration a bit. And Swansea played decent football at times, and they pressed in quite effectively as well. They put us under the cosh for I'd say probably for a good 15, maybe even 20 minutes, when I half expected us to concede again, because I thought these have got the tails up and they're actually playing really good football, and they're keeping possession really well as well. So there were a brief moment. I think Ampadu wasn't really covering himself in glory either. He were being a little bit sloppy and a little bit, I don't know, he wasn't very Ampadu-ish. And then, of course, he played that absolute blinding ball through to Rutter, and the rest is history. And you know, to go into 1 at half time after that sort of, you know, weathering the storm with the 15 minutes where they were really taking it to us, and obviously going in at 2-1 at half time, that's a real plus. And then in the second half, they didn't really get a sniff, did they? I think that were it then. I think you kind of got the feeling that they'd kind of just given up in the second half, especially after the third goal. Dan James slots it in, and you didn't really hear a peep from them. It was kind of just like, right, we'll just play this out as it is.
And then their gaffers alluded to that. Michael Duff.
I've not seen any interviews.
He spoke about conceding poor goals at poor times, and I think if you look at the timings, you know, we scored not long after they did, and we scored right on the cusp of half time. And if you're going to pick out a time to score, it's going to be when your opponents have just gone ahead. You want to score then. You know, you want to peg it back. Yeah. And if it's 1-1, you want to score just before half time, because it changes the entire makeup of the halftime team talk, the decisions the gaffer might make, and it forces the opposition to do something about it. I think just as an extension of that, and the comments that Michael Duff made, he said Elland Road's not a place you can come and just sit deep and try and hurt them on the break. You've got to come here and play football. And
a lot of teams do, though.
Well, that's one of the strangest comments I've seen, because the teams that frustrate us and the teams that sit deep and go, come on then, what have you got? Rather than trying to play against us and allowing us to play through the lines and allowing us to press them, because we know that there's a high chance of us winning the ball at some point somewhere, rather than them just countering with the forwards. Those are the sides that we actually do really well against. So it was strange to me that they played in such an open fashion in the first half. And all right, it got their noses in front, but how long for? And then we were able to hurt them. So that seemed a bit naive to me. From a feeling of the way that the game was going through that first half and into the second, did it feel like they had an actual foothold in the game throughout?
Not throughout, no. But like I said, that small period of time in the first half where they seemed to, I don't know whether they changed tact or whether they were trying to sniff us out or what, but they seemed to be holding on to the ball a hell of a lot better. Their interchange of play was very, very good. The little passing and movement and stuff. We seemed to be all a tither with it, really. We were like, we just completely lost his shape. We were still managing to obviously keep them out, but they were really effective with how they were keeping possession of the ball as well. And that's not really something I ever watch out for, really. I don't really watch a team, or specifically not an opposition team, and how they're actually playing their game. Not a lot, but I was actually watching them a lot closer last night, and I was quite impressed. Then number 33, I think he's called Bashi Humphreys or something like that. I think he's a Chelsea. I looked him up. He's a Chelsea kid on loan there, and I thought he played very, very well. He was doing some sort of weird kind of. Yeah, he was doing some sort of like weird little dance thing warming up, and I went to one of the lads. I went, "Who the fucking hell is this knobhead? What does he think he is?" And he wasn't a bad player. But yeah, in little bits, I was quite impressed with how they play. They certainly don't play like where obviously the league position would show. I mean, I think the 17th, 18th, maybe even might even be lower than that. I think 18th. There are a couple of places. Yeah. They certainly don't play like a team that's in 18th position. So
they're 1 point ahead of Huddersfield, who were 21st.
I've no doubt that they will climb the league, especially if they play like that a little bit more. It's just a shame that they don't have a decent enough striker, because we slapped him. We absolutely.
I mean, there is that.
We swiped him a few months ago.
The 1 point ahead of Huddersfield in 21st, but by that same token, they are Blackburn is 7th on 28, and Swansea have got 20. So that's just how tight the league is at the moment.
Yeah, it's very, very tight, isn't it?
It is.
Those three teams at the bottom, I mean, I think it's safe to say that Rotherham, well, maybe not Rotherham, but Sheffield Wednesday,
they fucked it.
I think so.
Which
is really surprising given how well Ipswich are doing as well. I think Rotherham might struggle, but you never know. They don't play too bad. I think their home form is obviously a lot better than their away form, so if they can keep that kind of ticking over.
It is, but if you look at the goal difference, there's only one goal difference between them and Sheff Wednesday, and it's just horrendous. So, I think out of them, QPR, maybe, I'll be honest, I think the bottom three, I mean, fingers crossed Huddersfield drop into there, but the bottom three, I think we'll probably stay the same all season. Rotherham and QPR might swap places, but I think we're looking at the bottom three.
Town got a decent result against Sunderland,
They did, yeah. They did.
Town aren't a bad setup, really. There is a good this, and you hear people saying it all the time. Yeah, of course it would be. It'd be hilarious. I mean, Wednesday and Town to go down, it'd be absolutely fantastic. But I think sometimes we have to take a step back and realise that there are a lot of quality teams in there, and it only takes a little bit of quality, a few additions of good players. I mean, we're absolutely brimming with good quality players, but the teams maybe from like, I don't know, 6th or 7th down, they've all been in here for a fair amount of time, and they have got little pockets of quality, whereas our squad is literally brimming with it. So you would expect our squad to go and beat these kind of teams.
Yeah.
But every now and again, your Huddersfields, your Rotherhams, your Sheffield Wednesdays, they will put in a decent performance against you, which may take you by surprise, whether that's us and others, Leicester again, other teams getting maybe complacent and not really taking it seriously. And them teams will bite you in the ass because, they're absolutely up for it.
I mean, let's talk about it now. Sheff Wednesday last night.
Exactly.
It's unreal. Who saw that coming? Especially once Leicester got the noses in front, you're thinking, well, that's that one done then.
Exactly. It's mad. We had a couple of people not DMing us, tweeting myself and you actually. I think he's a Leicester fan, wasn't he? After we drew with Rotherham and stuff like that, giving us some shit after saying that. Didn't we call Winks not a fraud, but we just said he wasn't as good as Ampadu? And then he turned around and said something.
Rodri?
Oh, yeah, that was it. Yeah.
He said he was Rodri.
He was comparing Winks to... He was saying he was the championship Rodri, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Fucking hell, dickhead. And we were just like, he's not even best bloody player in the league, etc., etc. And it's just, yeah. So.
I mean, it's mental. Absolutely mental. But I think you are right, if we touch on Ampadu, and yes, absolutely, that the ball that he played to Ruta was unreal. I mean, the touch to bring it down and kill it the way that he did, perfectly into his own path, is it's absolute filth. It really is filth. Yeah. And then to put it away, which has been his undoing so far this season. He's been good at getting into positions with the ball at his feet, but then it's all over the place. He didn't make any mistake at all last night. But to talk about Ampadu, I think that was one of the poorer games I've seen him have.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. Somebody said in the comments earlier on. In fact, it's Scooby. I'll just pop it up there because thankfully you'd starred it. What happened to all the "Don't Burn Arch" out talk? That's all just disappeared. It was good ball by Amp, but they did just stand off him and let him. I think there is a bit.
Ampadu had dropped quite deep there. They weren't pressing that high at that point. So
no, there were only one of their players in our half.
I didn't realise it when Ampadu at first. I thought it would Rodon that had played it over because he was sat that deep. But yeah, let's be fair though. I mean, we're judging Ampadu by Ampadu's standard. We've said that it wasn't one of his best games, but he still played well. We hold him in such high regard now because he keeps putting these really competent, really good performances. And they're just consistent. He's just consistently good, So he still played well, but just probably not as good. I mean, you look at Kamara. Even he had a wobble. I mean, he were partly at fault in the Rotherham goal that they scored. All these players do have a little tiny mistake in them, and just unfortunately, when you're at the positions that they're in, those little mistakes sometimes jumped on by the attacking team, and we concede from it. It's just one of them things. We're not playing Champions League football here. We're playing in the Championship, and this is a relatively new team still. We've got to remember that we're only a few months into this season. We're not even halfway through yet. So we've got to bear that in mind. I think I think Pirot, another one. I think he's getting better each week. He seems to be getting more involved with a lot more stuff. I think he's kind of found his rhythm now. He's found his role within the team. Somerville he's just an absolute joy to watch. And to be fair, I know we said it before when we were playing in the Premier League. He's good and his future's very, very bright. But down here in the Championship, he's just an absolute cheat code, as well as Rutter. Obviously his price reflects that maybe, but when you're looking at Somerville, he's just phenomenal. And I just hope we manage to keep hold of him for the rest of the season. I half expect him to go in the summer, perhaps. But especially if we don't get promoted, but we need to keep the quality players around him. And maybe the thing is, I don't know where we'd improve. I don't know who's out there. I mean, obviously I'm not a scout, but I don't even know where we'd improve if we were to bring a couple of people in. We've got 2 loan positions able to be filled that we've purposefully left unfilled, but I don't even know where we'd go with it. I mean, if you could, we've probably digressed maybe slightly. But if you could bring in an extra bit of quality, where would you put it at the moment?
Well, I think so. It's a challenging question. I think when you look at the fullback situation, Byram had a bit of a tweak and we missed him. We really missed him. Yeah. And let's be fair, crunching tackle on halfway line. What a tackle that is. And we scored not long after that because that was just before Dan James's goal, the one that stood. So Sam Byram's actually been a bit of a revelation, and I think that you can't really overstate that because so many people, and again I'm going to put my hand up, had kind of written him off before he signed, thinking, what on earth is he doing back? Never go back and all of that sort of shit. Tail end of his career, he's not going to have the legs. Is he going to have the fight? Absolutely, he's blown those doubters away. And but when we don't have him, we are struggling. Firpo's been out a long time. Yeah. He's not having much impact when he comes on. Gray's doing well. I like Gray in the middle. Well. I mean, to be fair, Kamara and Ampadu, they're doing well enough to not be of a concern. But I like seeing Gray in the middle as well. He's doing all right at right back now. Again, I detracted and said, after these first couple of games, I'm like, well, he's not a right back, so you've got to give him some leeway. But it's rare that now you look at him and go, you've not had a good game at fullback. You're thinking, no, you're doing perfectly well. But I think cover there, when you look at Ayling, and Spencer's been out a long time. He's had, 10 minutes for us? He looked great.
For Spencer to come straight back into the team and obviously Ayling to be left out, though. That says a lot, doesn't it?
And it does. Although having said that, Farker's been quoted today as saying that Ayling might land an extension, which again is strange based on the fact that he didn't get in the matchday squad last night.
When's his contract run out?
I think it might be end of season, and they're talking about the potential for a 1 year. But maybe that is because he's dropped off in training a little bit. Maybe he's not quite as motivated as he would have been if he were in the first team and whatever else. But it's difficult without being able to see exactly what's going on. But I think maybe a Dallas that can play a left or a right and do either well. In fact, is that Byram? So are you bringing in somebody? I think a lot of it does hinge upon Jed Spence's fitness, and if they're expecting that that's just a one-off, it was just a short-term thing, and there's no concern, then you are actually struggling to find an area of weakness in the side. You look at the wings, and you've got Anthony and Nonto to come on for James and Jimmy. Jimmy and Nonto can both play centrally if they need to.
Yeah.
We won't talk.
I think we'll probably lose Nonto in January.
I think a lot of it depends on how much.
Loan. Yeah. If not for a loan, I think maybe, and we may bring in someone else. I don't know about him, but like you say, I'm struggling. I think a few people in the comments have said, maybe a number 10, but that means we're losing Pirot out of his position. And I've said this before, and I'm going to re-quote myself: you don't change a winning team. Just to go out and get someone who's better on paper doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to perform better on the pitch or in that role within that squad. You could go get fucking Zinedine Zidane. He might not chuff in play as well as, well, obviously you want a number 10, but you get where I'm going. He might not play as well as Rutter or Pirot will in those roles. You just don't know. It's a gamble. And then obviously you're going to, if you get someone to potentially replace Pirlo, who has done nothing wrong in my opinion, then you're going to upset you're going to upset the whole flow and the whole dynamic of the squad. So you have to be really, really careful with doing something like that.
You do, and is a 10 coming in going to be able to be a goal threat in the same way that Pirlo is? Exactly. Because the interchanges between the 9 and the 10 that they've got going now, I think he's benefiting and growing with every game. I think
you just look how the whole four, that dynamic, your Dan James, your Somerville, Rutter and Pirlo, those four play so well together. You throw a completely random player in at this point, they may not perform as well. Jadon Anthony slots in quite nicely, as does Nonto. I dare say Nonto's probably doesn't fit in as well as the others do. To me, Nonto doesn't offer as much, especially as much as Somerville.
I'd actually forgotten because I was going to mention it tonight, and then I've forgotten about it, and you've just reminded me that a mate of mine sent me a stat earlier that had been tweeted by Graham Smith. And between Rutter, Pirlo, Somerville, and James, they've scored 41 in 18.
Mental, that
just. Sorry, not scored. 41 goal contribution, so that's the 6.
Okay, we're going to say when it comes including contributions.
It is crazy, and the level of impact that they're having, and the fact that you've got other players to come into that side that are of a level.
Effective players.
Anthony's played particularly well at this level in the past. Nonto's got a high ceiling. If either of them, I mean, especially Nonto, if he was to leave, then he'd be commanding a significant fee. So the fact that we've got them to rely upon, and obviously Sir Pat O'Banford to come on up front, he's just. If you look at the sides that we're going up against, if you look at Ipswich, for example, I think they're going to really struggle through the period of January, where the Asia Cup and the African Cup of Nations and so on start kicking in and start losing players.
And also the injuries, because the amount of games that they're going to be coming thick and fast. Their squad depth, I dare say, I mean, obviously they will have squad depth, but the quality in Ipswich...
There's a sharp drop-off from their first 11.
Very, very much so. So when you're relying on these other players to come in, the performances are going to be hampered by these stand-ins. I can't
Which
see
we've been through. How long did we go through having 2 midfielders in the entire squad?
Oh, exactly.
We've been through that without the squad depth.
Look at the end of the 21-22 season. When Bielsa got sacked because we were having to play frigging kids every week. It's just, we've been there, and unfortunately in a greater spotlight of the Premier League. Down in the Championship, you're hidden away kind of in the depths of it all. But, when you're playing higher leagues in front of, potentially millions of audiences worldwide, you're scrutinised for it. But fucking hell, yeah, I think once this Africa Cup of Nations gets going, I think we're going to see a lot. How many players do Leicester lose to it?
There's a potential of 7. The likelihood is 4. Yeah.
That many?
So the likelihood is 4, but there's a potential of 7 if they all get called up.
Even 4.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
4 from their 18. Not necessarily their starting 11, but it will impact. It will be of impact. So it will be interesting to see if they can, can they sustain going through Christmas and New Year, which we know the games come thick and fast at this level, but then continue sustaining through January. It's a 6-week period, it's Cup of Nations. So being able to sustain from mid-December through Christmas, through New Year, and then through that 6-week period beyond that to mid-Feb, towards the end of Feb. If they're there at the end of February, I don't see them getting caught. No. But if they're in a position where they have a wobble through that period and they've lost players, they drew with Sheff Wednesday last night, who were rock bottom of the table.
So did we. And arguably, you listen to our fan base, we're the best team in the league, blah, 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 blah. Some will say that we aren't. Like Jay who says we fucked it and we're just going to end up in playoffs. It's... there's that many different opinions, but the thing is, if Leicester do find themselves struggling, they will have a little honeypot to be able to dip into should they need to, replace these players. They're going to go shit or bust, aren't they, in January, especially with the potential of going up. I mean, what is their lead now? Is it 8 points again? Is it back down to 8 points?
7
in front. Is it
7
is it
7 behind them, and no, I think we're 7. No, they're only 1 point in front of Ipswich.
Oh, yeah, they are, aren't they?
I think it's yeah, 1 point to Ipswich. No, to be fair, I think we're 7 behind Ipswich, so we'll be 8 behind Leicester.
Yeah. So, I think they'll go shit or bust. And if, like I say, if these African Cup of Nations players or absentees are having that much of an impact on the squad, then they will have the money and the resource to be able to bolster their roster and do whatever they need to do. As will we, hopefully. The same can't be said for Ipswich because they don't have the money to do that. So at that point in the season, you'd like to think, right, this is where we're going to go. We're going to add little additions here, and Leicester will probably do the same. Southampton might even do, and you may well see Ipswich start to just drop off a little bit then. But then again, West Brom have come out of nowhere as well. So you can't write anything about this league. You can't place your bets or edge your bets on anyone in this league because it's that open at the minute.
It is.
You're not going to really see anything set in stone until way after Christmas, well into the New Year. That's when we'll see.
I'd say mid-Feb to March. When you're going to start about February, shaping up towards the end of the season.
Yeah,
that's when aside being consistent through that period and then beyond, that's when you'll start seeing them take shape in it.
Yeah.
I
think the Proclaimers in the comments and has said that the Leeds game against Ipswich is a 6-pointer. That will be a really important game. And that's only in 4 weeks. Is it Ipswich game? 4 weeks or so, I think it is. Might be slightly more. I'm a man of facts. I will find out whilst you are talking.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, it's. I think you touched on West Brom there.
Yeah, it's 23rd.
They're only 3 points behind us.
23rd we play. It's in 5 games.
Yeah, so it will be a big one. But by then we might well be in front of them. By then we might have dropped some more points, and they haven't. Yeah, it changes so quickly, and nothing's won. Where Leicester fans or some Leicester fans have gone wrong is nothing's won this side of Christmas. Nothing's won this side of March. No. You need to get beyond that. It's so easy to fall away.
We're living proof of that.
Exactly.
We are absolutely living proof of that.
And what was it that was said that no side at Christmas, top of the league, has not got promoted? Leeds said, hold my beer.
Well, before we fucked it up completely, that stat, I think it was like the last 12 successive seasons or something. I think.
Yeah, but do you know who it was that brought that duck before that?
Who?
Us.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was thinking when will that have been? Oh,
I don't know if that was Monk.
It's a shit start anyway. Fuck it.
No, it can't.
I remember. No. I thought it was 12 seasons. I remember being there or thereabouts under McDermott. We had a really, really good start to his first proper season. But since then, under Monk we were shit for the first 4 or 5 games.
No,
in fact, he were nearly sacked. I think there were talk of him getting booted, weren't they? When he first took over. Christensen, we did all right.
Yeah, but, and he was a nice guy. He was all right, wasn't he?
He was all right.
He was just. I think it was the wrong time for him. Do you know what? I don't know where it's come from, but one thing that I did quite enjoy last night was Balassi.
They're chanting about him.
Well, not just they're chanting about him, but he came on and he just had a bit of fun.
Yeah, he did.
The game had gone. They weren't going to get back into it at that point. We were well in control, but he came on and he just enjoyed having a kick about. I think it's been about 6 months since he had a decent game. So being able to come on at Elland Road, first game back, he just went on and enjoyed it. I like that. So yeah, that's not so bad. Bryn has popped up and said Simon Grayson. You were under Grayson.
Oh, were it Grayson? Yeah, it probably was actually.
So yeah, there you go. So I think just going back to the game then. So you've mentioned a few players and we've spoken about the goals. We probably haven't spoken enough about Dan James's actual goal. I thought that he took it really well. We did speak about Byram's challenge on halfway line to kind of set that up. But just in terms of the overall game and putting you on the spot to pick a man of the match, where would you hang your hat?
My man of the match would be Jorginho, I think.
Yeah.
I think he had a very, very good game. Been a real nuisance. Obviously, he was unfortunate to not get an assist at the very, very beginning of the match, but then took his goal really well. And I think he hustles really well. He's playing some really, really good stuff at the minute. It's always going to be a bit of competition between those kind of players, your Somervilles and stuff, because they're just so effective. They are literally, they're not carrying the team, but they're so dynamic and they're so, just electrifying and just such a pleasure to watch. Everything else kind of like fades into the background, doesn't it? Because like you've said, as soon as Rutter pick up the ball or Somerville pick up the ball, even to a degree, Dan James, you're kind of on your edge of your seat thinking, "Ooh, something could happen here."
Yeah.
Whereas when you're watching Kamara and you're watching Ampadu, it's all nicely controlled, solid, just great performances. But there's not that spark that you get from Somerville and Rutter. So I think probably unfairly they will always have that little bit of an edge. But I think certainly, where credit's due, I thought Jorginho played very, very well. But there were quite a few. I think there were quite a few.
I think I would have been very interested. So one of the times, because largely he did play well, but one of the times that Rutter made a mistake was he slightly got the pass in the middle. So he had the ball on the right wing and he was crossing it for Kamara, who was through. And if he'd have got that ball just right,
their defenders
if he'd got that ball right,
it
would have been good to see how Kamara handled being in that situation, because we tend to see him further back. In fact, we tend to see Kamara popping up all over the place, don't we?
Kamara's brilliant. I love
Kamara's
Kamara.
Everywhere. And another call out to a mate of ours, our mate Scotch Gaz, said Kamara can't pass forwards and don't get forwards. For me,
that's not true.
But that's in Scotch football as well, which you're thinking, this guy, he might have been judging him against Champions League opposition. We don't know, because they have been in Europe. But for me, again, I've said it a couple of times about a couple of players, but it's been a revelation since he's come into the side.
Yeah,
because we're looking at Archie Gray, thinking you're playing really well. How do we drop you? How do we get you some space and some time on the bench or whatever, so that we're not loading up too much on such a young man? We ended up switching him to fullback to fill in that position there while Spence were out, and then Kamara came in and he's not missed a beat. His first game was slightly ropey, but it's gone a bit because he'd not played for a while. And then
he had a couple of bit performances, didn't he? When he came in, on a couple of games as a substitute to kind of shore it up, kind of between him and Gruev. But I mean, where does that leave Gruev at the minute? I mean, he's just poor lad, just sat there on bench. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like when Spence comes in, and I kind of hoped we'd see Spence last night actually, but obviously Saturday's going to be literally just round the corner, so hopefully he'll feature then. But if Spence starts then at right back, that obviously leaves Archie Gray potentially on the bench. And if I see Archie Gray on the bench and I want something to happen in the middle, he's the first player I'm going to be picking. So that's going to drop it even further. Unless obviously we're trying to defend a leader well, that's kind of more of his game. But we were sold Gruev as kind of like a clicky kind of number 8 that can do a little bit of box to box, a little bit of everything. So I don't really know where he will feature at all, if I'm totally honest. It's a good conundrum. It's a headache for Farke, obviously, but Archie Gray, we need to manage his time, obviously, but his ceiling's huge, absolutely huge. But we need to keep him happy, because obviously, if there are clubs sniffing around him at the end of the season, we may struggle to keep hold of him, especially if we're not giving him the game time that he probably deserves.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky one. There's Brenda's Ghost in the comments. I'm gonna pop this up for you. Stewie D at left back, perhaps.
Yeah, I did mention somebody like Stewie D that can play left and can play right and do both well. I think my only concern with thinking that it's going to actually be Stewie D is just how long he's been out. There is no guarantee that he'll be able to play at the level that he was. Now, we all hope that he will, and us being able to see the way that we knew that 9 times out of 10 he was playing injured even before he had the big injury. So if anybody's got the mentality and the will to actually get back to the level, then it's going to be him. Yeah. But what is he now, 32?
That said,
it's going to be so tough for him.
It's going to be incredibly hard. I mean, obviously, Fark does mention him every now and again. That obviously he's a long-term injury and he's working back and stuff. But I think he's going to really, really struggle to make any kind of impact. It might be a bit part player. It might be a so long farewell. I certainly think that's the case with Ayling. Although the whole contract extension thing that you said earlier has kind of thrown me a little bit. I think it's the last time we see Cooper. I think Dallas will probably. I think that'll be it for him. You know, I'd love to see Stuart Dallas. I love that guy. I think he's I
really want to see him on the pitch, regardless of anything else. If he doesn't get back to the level, I really want to see him on the pitch with the Leeds get on playing.
Absolutely,
one of the games before the end of the season.
Yeah, a few more times, giving him a bit of a send off and
stuff. The way that Click went, if it's going to be Stewie D's last season, some of the memories that we had with him, and you know, and the fact that he was there through Bielsa, but he was there, you know. Just even like the Man City game, stuff like that. We need to be able to give him a send off and tell him, you know, how much we appreciate.
The game that sticks out most for me about Dallas was the semi-final at home against Derby. He took that game by the scruff of the absolute neck.
He did.
It was unreal. And to be fair, so did Jamie Shackleton. He had a fantastic game that game as well. But Stuart Dallas, like when you need someone to step up to the plate, Dallas is always there and will always put his absolute heart and soul into every single performance. I hope to God that
we might have been all right.
I really, really do hope we do see him back in the team, but I just think with the quality of the squad at the minute, I think he's going to struggle unless, like I say, comes back absolutely fit and firing, and then you know we'll take it from there. But just one thing, Tasha, she says she's in. I think she's in hospital, so all the best. Hope you're fixed and well relatively soon, Tasha. But apparently meds are kicking in. Yeah, meds are kicking in, so she's going to catch us later. So all the best. Hope you recover soon.
All goes well.
Not another Leeds podcast. So Danny's in the comments saying Kamara shoulder drop could send Grimes back to his mum's. I took great pleasure in shouting something quite offensive at Matt Grimes when it was relatively close to our stand. And I hope to God he bloody heard it as well. But
if he had heard it, he would have actually cried on the pitch. So maybe
probably. Absolutely.
Sorry to burst your bubble.
Yeah, maybe so.
So yeah, I think to go back to the question I asked you, I think probably Jimmy again for me. He's just so good, but not just good on the ball. I think it is clear that Rutter's good on the ball, and nobody would argue that now. But I think he's not just good on the ball; he's effective with it just about every time he gets it. He's setting people up, he's putting people away, he's scoring goals, he's getting assists. I think he's second in the league. So Smodic has got 13 goals, and I think maybe 1 or 2 assists. And in terms of goals and assists, I think he's the only person that Jimmy's behind if you combine goals and assists.
Yeah.
In the league, and that's some going, especially when there's so much competition in our squad. Yeah. I think the only real strange thing for me is how long he stayed on the pitch last night, because I expected him to be one of those subbed off quite early on. Well, when I say early on, when we got a 2-goal cushion, I expected it to be Jimmy that came off purely on principle that I expect him to play at the weekend. And he wasn't the one of the early ones that came off, was it? Dan James came off and Rutter came off. So from a perspective of the lineup for the next game, which we can touch upon because there's not going to be a main pod in between. Who do you see starting on the wings?
I would say that it'll be unchanged. I think it'll be relatively unchanged. I mean, you'd be stupid to change it, wouldn't you? I mean, it's like my mantra. You don't change a winning team. You really don't. You don't fuck with a winning team, especially one that, you know, is doing so well. I mean, I think in his last 5, I mean, I can't remember where I saw this, but one of the guys tweeted us on our pod account earlier today. That when you actually look at over the last 5 games, the points that have been taken over the last 5 games, Leicester have got 7, Ipswich have got 8, and we've got 13. You don't need any more stats. That's it. That's your start. You know, we're playing well, we're playing efficient football, and we you know, you don't change. So unless there's injuries, unless there's an actual reason to do so, then fair enough. But I think we're relatively unchanged going into Middlesbrough, who are missing a certain Mr. Greenwood as well, which is a boost even. A boost for us.
Is that a boost and a bonus?
And a boost and a bonus. Well, whatever.
A boost.
I don't know. A boost. So yeah, that's a shot in the arm for us as well. But I think, you know, given our home form and the fact that we're playing so well at the minute, it gives us great confidence going into this next game.
So how far does your don't change a winning team carry you if Spence is fully fit and available and trains well this week?
I still think we start Gray. I think we still start Archie Gray. Because he's been injured for so long and he's only just coming back in. It's not for me. You don't start him. But then again, it's Jed Spence and he's absolutely quality. So I don't know. But I'd be a hypocrite if I said any different. So I'm sticking with Archie Gray. And then see maybe Jed Spence coming in a little bit later in the game, perhaps. I suppose it depends how it pans out, doesn't it? Yeah, it depends how it pans out, doesn't it? You know.
I don't think it does. I think if you're looking after a 2-goal win, a 2-goal cushion, then you can bring him on because his pace is going to see him through. As we saw in that just 10 minutes when he came on earlier in the season. The challenge that he made in the box is a challenge that Ayling just can't make because he's just not going to get back.
He wouldn't have been there. I mean, to be fair, he was aided with a miniature slip. He did trip over to make that block, which was funny. I saw that because I was smack bang in line. Thought, you lucky bastard.
But he had to get there.
No, yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, Ayling wouldn't have even been. He'd have still been turned around with Ayling. You know? And I don't want to turn this into a Ayling hating little thing that I'm about to go on now, because it's not. Because he's an absolute fantastic servant to the club. He's doing his coaching badges and all sorts of stuff behind the scenes. Apparently, you know, he's an icon. Luke Ayling's an icon. Like Liam Cooper is an icon. Like frigging Stuart Dallas. I won't go as far as saying legends because I don't think many of them are. But you know, we're indebted to him. And I don't, you know, this last couple of seasons where obviously his age is starting to take hold of him and he's slowing down, his performances are maybe, you know, stooping a little bit. I don't want that to detract from the good things and the cracking performances that we had. When we signed Luke Ayling, they were an absolute revelation at right back. He were brilliant.
And look what he cost.
Yeah, exactly. An absolute steal. What were it? 500 grand, I think it cost us.
Don't even think it with that. 200 grand.
Bristol City we got him from.
Yeah.
Little dwarf that let him go for nothing.
That's it.
400 grand, Bremner's Ghost isn't comments. So, you know, for that return, you know, it's just not even worth mentioning, is it? So, yeah. Do you know what? I'd love to see Ayling back in a coaching role, like I would love to see Cooper or Dallas or any of the other old guys from that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, and I've said it maybe not right from the start, but from seeing how effective he was under Bielsa, I think Stewie D is one of the ones that goes on to be an absolute class manager.
Yeah.
And it's because he could play anywhere. Bryn's in the comments in our group chat saying 200,000. So anyway, it was somewhere around, somewhere between 200 and 500.
It was about 500,000. I think Bremner's closer with 4.
But no, I think Dallas is one of those that because he can play anywhere, it means that he sees the game in a different way, dependent on the way that he needs to see it, and he can kind of adapt. And being able to adapt, I think lots of people, when they spoke about Glenn Hoddle before he retired, said that he was going to be a world-class coach because of how good he was as a footballer. And actually, beyond being England manager, what he'd said is he'd always struggled because he asked his players to do things that he could do, but they couldn't do it. they weren't as good as him. Dallas is so adaptable and sees the game so well, and that's why he's so adaptable. I think that's something that he'll be able to leverage as a gaffer, and I think he'll do really well.
That's where the original utensil comment came from.
It is.
That was me describing Stuart Dallas as a utensil player when I actually meant utility. As rightly you clipped me, you bastard, and now it's forever ingrained in our podcast.
We've had a question of how much was Dallas. I think he was.
It's all right, him coming off now when we're about to bugger off.
I think he was about 1.2, 1.3 with Dallas. So he wasn't cheap, but at the same time,
no, Dallas wasn't cheap. We're going from Brentford, but I think I've just had a quick Google and Bryn's right. It was 200 grand.
You mean Gilly's right? Because Gilly said it before Bryn did.
Oh, did he? Luke just has he joined wrong link? The silly sod.
I don't know. He's gone now.
Cat's fake. What a dickhead, little pod whore he is.
that's right. He's on with
Joe.
He's
going on with just Joe, innit? Oh, Joe friends.
What a dick. Yeah, well, I mean, which is probably our hat nod to make tracks. But yeah, just I have captured it because Alison's been in the comments. A few have been in the comments, but Alison was the first one that I saw. I'm going to put you on the spot now, and I'm going to ask you for a prediction. And the first one I'm going to say is Alison said 1-1.
Really?
Which for the fans' prediction would be minuses if we end up getting the result. So,
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. But where are you going to go?
I think I'm going to go 2-1 Leeds.
Oh, I've written mine. I've gone 2-1.
Have you gone 2-1 as well? Yeah. I think it'll be a good game. Middlesbrough aren't a pushover. They're a good team. And dare I say it, they've got a good manager who likes to play good football. So I think it'll be... Scum. Yeah, he's scum. But yeah, they play decent football. I mean, they were right up there end of last year, and they've had a bit of a slow start to this season. But I think with a little bit of momentum, they'll kind of climb the league a little bit. But yeah, I think we'll have the upper edge on them. I think our quality will be too much for them, and I think we'll probably beat them. But stranger things have happened.
And when you see a side in 10th, you think, well, they can't be doing particularly well. They are 3 points off 6th. It's just how close the league is. They are really only 8 points behind us, and that's how far we are behind Leicester.
Yeah,
it's not.
This is what I mean. Like, we're thinking, oh Christ, they're right up there, but people have completely written us off as contenders for the league and say that Leicester have pretty much won it already. It's like, come on, man, have you listened to what you're saying?
So it would be very easy for Middlesbrough to leapfrog a few sides and end up 4th, 5th, 6th within a couple of games. Beyond us, obviously, because they're not going to get us anything against us.
I think, like you say, once we get this winter out of the way, once we've all been battered and bruised over the Christmas period, I think we're going to see some daylight between a few teams. I think we'll see some gaps opening up at the top end of the table. But it's going to be fun and it's going to be chaos. But I'm here for it.
It is.
And I can't wait.
It is. And, I just to go back to the theme that we started off with, really, is I think just as fans, we just got to suck it up and do our best to enjoy it, because it's not going to be champagne all the time. No. We're going to play against some absolute fucking dross, and we're going to really struggle sometimes.
We're going to struggle. Well, we already have.
Yeah. So let's just get into it and enjoy being there and enjoy being towards top at league. And we Leeds United and we're going up.
That's right.
Right, thanks to everybody that's got involved in the comments again. Thank you to yourself, Mr. Smart, who I might see soon in maps and guns and shooting.
Yes, absolutely.
And yeah, everybody enjoy your evening, and let's get into them bastards at the Borough and another 3 points at the weekend. We'll see you all again soon.
Take care.